just before the appointments to boards and commissions.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Let's have it.
Motion to approve, okay, we are now acting as the Board of License Commissioners. Motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent calendar for the boards of license commissioners. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to adjourn as Board of License Commissioners and convene as council.
Second.
All right, we have motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve the consent calendar in its entirety with the exception of letter G.
Second.
Motion and second to approve the consent calendar in its entirety except for the letter G. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
So we have a communication from the Newport Prevention Coalition, Councilor Smythe. Anything you wanna add?
Yes, I believe that we have someone from the coalition in the audience that would like to speak to this item.
Please state your name and address, please.
Mr. Chair, I'm just going to make a motion to receive the communication from the Newport Prevention Coalition. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
My name is Grace Ragazzino. My address is 103 Robinson Street in Narragansett, Rhode Island.
You.
So I am here representing the Newport Prevention Coalition. As of about 2-3 months ago, it came to our attention that THC infused beverages were being sold in liquor stores on the island. And I actually have some examples here. Got to take a look.
Move to accept.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
So to give a brief background on myself, I have a graduate certificate from the University of Rhode Island in cannabis studies. So to make a very long explanation short, the beverages that are in your hands right now are hemp-derived THC products. They are not derived from the legal cannabis or marijuana plant that we know. So the issue that we have found with these beverages is that they are legal under the 2018 hemp law. So what that did was legalize the hemp plant, which is a different plant other than the marijuana plant that we know. With these legalizations, it made the hemp plant legal, which meant they could have anything under 0.3% THC grown in the plant. Problem with this is that hemp grows very fast. It grows a lot faster than marijuana. So we have found that those that are growing hemp plant can grow it very fast, take more of the THC, extract it, and put it into the beverages. The biggest issue that the Prevention Coalition has found is that these are not regulated by the FDA. You can see on the labels of the cans that it says not FDA approved. So that means any additives, any testing that is done on these products is not the same as it is based off of what you would get at a dispensary. On top of this, being sold in a liquor store, there is more risk for underage individuals to get their hands on these products, as ID checking at dispensaries are a lot stricter than they are in liquor stores. When you go to a dispensary, you have your ID checked at the door. You have it checked possibly again when you're paying for your product, and your information gets entered into a system so that they can track how much you're purchasing in a month, in a week, whatever their time span is. With these, they're flying off the shelves. So we're not sure who necessarily is buying them, how fast they're being consumed. And one of the cans that was used as an example actually has a cap over it. So it's a 12-ounce can with a resealable tab, and it's marketed to have 1 serving or 5 servings per drink. If you look at a 12-ounce can, you could crush that thing in a second. So to have the resealable, not necessarily as accurate as dosing would be. So the biggest issue from the Prevention Coalition standpoint is the regulation and the possibility of it getting into the hands of underage kids. So I thank the council for hearing me today. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
just one
Councilor.
question. What stores sell them in Rhode Island?
In Rhode Island, we're seeing them at liquor stores right now. I can tell you from firsthand in Narragansett, they're sold in many of the liquor stores, but we have seen from Prevention Coalition members that are on the island that they've seen them in liquor stores in Newport, Portsmouth, and Middletown. We're actually rolling out environmental scans, which will be used to collect data and to be able to see just how big of an issue this is.
You have to be 21 to purchase the.
You do, yes.
Mr.
Any-
Chairman,
Council Carlin?
thank you. Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. It's a big problem in Providence as well, and I'm sure in many other communities that you are aware of. These drinks, the cans, the coloring, they're designed to get the attention of those who are not only under 21, but under 18, under 16, 12 and under in some cases. It's also against the law to use tobacco products in the state of Rhode Island or to sell to those who are not 18 years old tobacco products in the state of Rhode Island. Yet we see the tobacco industry, Providence again, a very, very vocal and central example. We see the tobacco industry marketing to these youngsters.
Yeah.
The type of products that Councilor Pinnock, myself, my colleagues as adults would pay no attention to. But for youngsters, they put them in bubble gum flavors,
Yep.
grape joy, things of that nature. The only unfortunate is that we cannot, as a city council, regulate the sale of these products within our city. That is entirely up to the General Assembly and the Department of Business Regulation. I would be happy to sponsor a council resolution. We're fast approaching the end of the General Assembly session, so it would have to be next year, unfortunately, asking the General Assembly to do something to stronger regulate these products. And thank you again for coming here.
And if you look at the labels, there are less regulation on whether or not to have the cannabis flower, the label with the big red triangle around it. There's less regulation on that. A lot of the labels on those cans, they say recover socially. They have a very small label that says THC infused, whereas with legal marijuana, there are all regulations in place for that.
Mr. Chair,
Council Pinnock?
I just wanted to say thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. As someone that works with kids, I'm well aware of how quickly and easily kids can get a hold of things that could cause them great harm. We've had kids as young as 10 in the 5th grade with marijuana vapes. So thank you again for bringing it to City Council today. And I really appreciate Councilor Collins' perspective on this also. Anything that we can do to help support our kids' health and safety, I'm all for it. So I really do appreciate it. I feel like we have more regulations on Tide Pods than we do on things that could cause kids bodily harm and injury.
Thank you.
Yeah, any other discussion? Yeah, I know. I mean, it's not just children, it's adults that have a huge effect. I know in the restaurant industry, it's a big concern because when you have people come into your restaurant that you think are fine, you give them the one drink and next thing you know, they're on the floor. I've seen it. It's not pretty. Come to find out they're, whether they're taking, whether it's one of these types of drinks or some sort of, THC gummies, what have you. It's a liability. That's a big question. So I know it's a big battle up at the state level on all sides. So thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, motion to approve a special event license, Newport Art Museum doing business as Summer Art Party Gala, 76 Bellevue Avenue, July 11th, 2025, from 6 p.m. to 11 p.m. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to approve a valet parking license, Perfection Valet Parking at Newport Art Museum, 76 Bellevue, July 11th, 2025, from 6 PM to 11 PM, and the plan is attached. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second, any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Council Carlin?
Thank you. Is the applicant here this evening?
Yes.
Is that Ellen? That's okay. Never mind. I trust Ellen.
It's her name.
Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve a sidewalk cafe license, new Get the Scoop LLC, doing business as Get the Scoop for Broadway.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve an entertainment license, new BHLL LLC, doing business as Brenton Hotel, 31 America's Cup Avenue, to have entertainment daily indoors and outdoors on the roof deck from 4 PM to 10 PM, and this is a second hearing.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have anyone from the public that wishes to address? Any discussion from the council? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, motion to close the hearing and approve.
Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is also a hearing, motion to approve an entertainment license, new Newport Playhouse LLC, doing business as Playhouse Kitchen, 102 Connell Highway, to have entertainment indoors daily from 11 AM to 1 AM and outdoors Sunday through Thursday from 11 AM to 11 PM and 11 AM to midnight on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays preceding a Monday holiday. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Again, this is a second hearing. Is there anyone from the public that wishes to address this or any questions?
Motion to close the public hearing and approve.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve the 2025 annual entertainment license renewals. Or a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion on the entertainment licenses, renewals? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, you want to move resolutions?
Oh, yes, thank you. Yes, this is a resolution supporting the design and construction planning for the Middle Passage Port Marker. Counselor, Chairholder.
Let me just get to the. All right, so what we have in front of us is something that we've been talking about for a couple of years now, and we've had been in discussions with the state DOT about a parcel of land that is located in between Thames Street and America's Cup Avenue, that we think will be a good spot to have the Middle Passage Port Marker Memorial. So if there's anyone from the design team that wants to come up and say any words, you're more than welcome to now.
Good evening,
Thanks, Mr. Jackson.
and I want to thank you, Mayor Holder and council, for all that you've done for us the last year. Now, as you all know, I was born and raised in Newport, Rhode Island, and I was introduced to and aware of all the public art that's in Newport. The monuments, the memorials, the sculptures, the statues, even my Antonelli Park, where I played a lot, and Turtle Park, where I also played a lot. And I learned a little bit about history in Newport. But the Newport African American history was provided to me through the Black churches, Congregational Church, Mount Zion, the Black History Museum that Mount Zion had, Shiloh Baptist Church, and Mount Olivet. And when Newport was designated as a Middle Passage port, it was way back in 2014. It was part of a national effort to launch, create memorials at each point. And Peter Fay and I were pleased to spearhead a campaign for Newport. A group of interested citizens gathered together, and many of them are sitting right here behind me from that initial meeting. And that's when the passage was committed. You gave us permission to erect a memorial in Liberty Square. And for over 8 years, we proceeded with planning and fundraising. After opposition last year, we decided to relinquish Liberty Square. We asked you guys to help us identify a new location. Now, we got to fast forward to tonight's resolution that I think Mr. Holt is going to give us. A positive first step in securing a new site. And we thank the council and we are grateful for your strong support for the site. And we thank the Tree and Open Space Commission along with the Public Sculpture Commission. The new proposal, as you probably know by now, is a parcel of land that's owned by the state on America's Cup Avenue. And seeking approval for this site, we were prepared to work with all the necessary parties to be in compliance with those RIDOT requirements. Once granted, we're going to proceed with planning, fundraising to create a place, public art to honor our ancestors and descendants of African American. And tonight is a good start. And all we can say is thank you. The members, please stay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Uh, Yeah, I'm just gonna go and read the resolved on the resolution. So resolved by the City Council of the City of Newport that it hereby expresses its formal support for the Newport Middle Passage Port Marker Memorial concept and proposed location on the state-owned island at America's Cup Avenue and authorizes preliminary staff engagement with RIDOT on behalf of the project. And be it further resolved that this resolution affirms the council's support for advancing the project to the development of comprehensive design and construction plans in anticipation of future review and action by the relevant commissions and this council. And be it further resolved that the city council recognizes and commends the Newport Middle Passage Port Marker project for its work to honor the memory of those who endured the transatlantic slave trade and for fostering public understanding, remembrance, and dialogue as part of Newport's cultural and civic life. And again, also want to, as Ms. Johnson said, thank the Tree and Open Space Commission and the Public Sculpture Commission as well for their work. And, you know, this has been discussions for a long time and trying to find the right place. And I think like this plot of land, even though it's state owned, and thank you to the state for working with us, is a great place. I think it's going to have more visibility from tourists and residents, and it looks over where those ships came in, and I think it's going to be a tremendous honor for them. So thank you for your work.
Motion
Go
to
ahead, Council.
approve the resolution?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Council Pinnick?
I just wanted to say thank you very much, Mrs. J, Mrs. Fern Lima. I'm up here because of women like you both. I stand on your shoulders and try not to get emotional because there's no crying in politics.
Oh, yes, there is.
But I just want to thank you for your decades of really, really hard work to make sure that we're visible in this community. And for those advocates and active accomplices and allies that are sitting behind you, thank you also very much for your hard work to make sure that we are visible in this community. So, thank you.
Thank you, Council Pinnick. All right, without any further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye. Next, a resolution requesting a flagpole be installed at Murphy Field in honor of Private Michael Murphy. Mr. Carlin?
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the council.
Second.
Well, would you read the resolve and then we will, you can make a motion to approve.
Sure, I'd be happy to read the resolve. Resolved that the city administration shall work in consultation and partnership with VFW Post 406. The number 0 on my computer does not work. The letter P does not work. The letter W does not work.
You need a new computer.
And sometimes when I'm asleep at the wheel, I don't work. So you understand, I think, my colleagues and those who are here from the Post, what I mean, and I shall leave it to my friends, neighbors, and constituents to explain the bottom line, so to speak, on this resolution. It's long overdue, and I thank the Post and I thank Mr. Richards for his persistence in bringing this forward. With that,
Would you like to make
I
a motion?
move.
Okay, second.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second. Further discussion?
Mr.
Mr.
Chairman.
Richards?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Richards, let's come up.
Good evening, Council President and council members. Thank you for having me this evening. My name is Anselm Richards, and I'm the commander of VFW Post 406 in Newport. It is the only VFW post in Newport. There are 3 on the island, but 1 in Newport. We do not have a home. We meet at the Elks on the second Thursday of each month. And I start off by saying thank you for your continued support for veterans in Newport. I saw many of you this past Monday, both at Storer Park as well as the City Hall Memorial. Again, thank you. I'm joined this evening by some of my brothers and sisters from the VFW post behind me, to include the state of Rhode Island VFW Commander Mark Turner. So I speak on their behalf, on behalf of all the veterans. So quickly, the history of Private Michael G. Murphy. He was born in Cork County, Ireland, and in 1915, found himself a resident of 28 Simmons Street, 5th Ward. In 1918, he went to World War I. He was drafted and was killed in action on October 30th, 1918 in the Argonne Forest. 1932, VFW post, most likely our post, in as much as we are over 100 years old. Veterans of foreign war were very active in trying to name recognition for fallen veterans of World War I. Parks, buildings, plaques, as we're all quite aware. That effort found itself in Newport. In 19 September, there was an article in the Newport Daily News with respect to a city alderman raising awareness for fallen veterans, Newport's fallen veterans. On 9 November, there's a ceremony at Toro Park at which then Newport Mayor Sullivan announced, let it be known that the following spaces will be renamed to recognize Newport's fallen veterans, one of which was Richmond Field, now as we know it as Murphy Field. And it was decreed by the mayor at that time that it should be known as the Private Michael G. Murphy Field. The signage now says Michael Murphy Field. So it was to be Private Michael G. Murphy Field, a black sign with gold lettering. And indeed, these signs were erected at 7 different green spaces or parks throughout Newport. Some of them are still probably standing and named accordingly. So that was the declaration by the mayor at that time. There are 7 parks, as I said. So what will VFW Post 406 do? We're undertaking a quite substantial financial campaign to support this action, to have the proper renaming of Murphy Field to be named Private Michael G. Murphy Field, as well as a flagpole erected similar to the flagpole that we know is in Morton Park, which is quite the sight when you travel past Morton Park, especially in the evening as it is illuminated. Simultaneous to this, not to digress from this evening's point, VFW Post 406 has engaged with state representatives Abney and Carson with respect to the proper renaming and recognition for Memorial Boulevard. As we probably all know, Memorial Boulevard used to be known as Bath Avenue, I believe. And again, after World War I, there are plots of land, you could call them islands, that are named after 5 veterans. And they start pretty much at the Hall of Bellevue and go toward First Beach. The signage is there, it's in need of repair. So again, State Rep Abney and State Rep Carson have put forward a legislative grant, I believe in the amount of $5,000, to aid in the assistance of proper recognition with a centrally located plaque and beautification of the existing signs. I'm working hand in hand, or the post is working hand in hand with Bert Lippincott at the Newport Historical Society to make sure that we don't undo what has been done, and that what we do is in accordance with the history of Newport, both from a verbiage perspective for the signs and also in accordance with what we know happened in 1932. Subject to your questions, again, thank you for the time this evening.
Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I have one
Council
question.
Segley.
You said the flag will be illuminated, which
That is the hope,
is, okay. So is there electrical power in the park that you can take from? I'm just wondering how that would work.
I believe there is conversation this weekend with a resident who's more familiar with that park than I. I believe that power has been installed in the vicinity of the new playground by
Okay.
by the slide. I think there is a power outlet.
Okay.
that could perhaps support illuminating the flagpole if it were electrified and not solar.
That'll make it a lot easier. Yeah, thank you.
Council Carlin.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My colleagues, thank you,
Thank you.
Commander, and thank everybody for attending in support of the resolution tonight. I also want to thank our former Newport historian. And if you're watching, Patrick Murphy, Pat, not only is Private Murphy a distant relative of Pat's, but he also did an extensive amount of research to bring this issue to my attention a year ago, also to our former city managers and other city officials' attention. And Pat has 50-plus years of service to the city of Newport as our historian and in many other capacities. So Pat, my friend, my neighbor, my constituent, I'm thinking of you tonight. I also want to thank Jimmy Topa, who had taken upon himself the responsibility of seeing to it that Morton Park has an appropriate flagpole, lighting, and raises and takes down the flag on a daily basis. Jimmy, I thank you for your service to the city and to the country. And we will provide, as we did at Morton Park, any electrical function that is necessary. And while I do appreciate the post's fundraising efforts, this is a citywide effort. This is something that the city can be proud of. This goes back 90-plus years, and we will get to you what you need. We're not talking about an immense amount of money here. We're talking about honoring a veteran who is long, long overdue in the proper signage and more. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other discussion? Any other, anyone else from the public that wants to say anything? No. Just one thing I just want to add, is growing up in Newport, I don't know how many thousands of kids played on the Rogers football team. You practice on Murphy Field and probably have no idea what Murphy Field means and who it's for. Efforts like these will really highlight, the names and recognitions of those that should be honored and dutifully as we are doing today. So thank you for your efforts for the VFW, and thank you, Councilor Collin, for bringing this forward. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Right. So next up, we have appointments to boards and commissions. We are appointing Frederick Huntsberry to the Planning Board. Three-year term expires 5/28/2028. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then we have three reappointments, Energy and Environment Commission, Mr. Andy Bjork for a 3-year term expiring 4/9/2028. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
To the Henderson Home Commission, Jack Grant, 1-year term expiring 3/10/2026. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Carlin.
Thank you. I want to highlight Jack as well as a neighbor, a friend, and a constituent. He usually comes to many city council meetings. I'm not sure if he's here. He is here tonight. Jack, thank you for your service to the city of Newport, both past and present. And I, with honor, second that nomination.
All those in favor?
Aye.
To the Newport Beach Commission, Nick Zambrata, 3-year term expiring 4/11/2028. Do I have a second?
Second.
Your motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Next, we have a memorandum from the Deputy City Manager concerning the Rhode Island Slave History Medallion Juneteenth Special Event Road Closure Request. Do you want me to read just a little bit from this, or do you want to give a little presentation?
Your preference, Counselor.
Okay, Well, the Newport City Council had concerns about road closures in the high-volume traffic and pedestrian area in June. The council subsequently approved the special event license and the closure of Washington Street for 60 to 90 minutes, but referred Mr. Roberts to the city administration to discuss other street closures and necessity of police detail during the event. Sergeant Head relayed that the following roads would be closed for 60 to 90 minutes. Upper Washington Square, Meeting Street, and Colonial Street. Park Place will be closed for the entire event due to the food trucks now being relocated to Park Place between the Colony House and the courthouse. Charles Street and Farewell Street will remain open for traffic. Once permissible, those streets will reopen and only Park Place will remain closed. So though that is what is being proposed. We have already approved the special event license, which we did approve on April 23rd for this Juneteenth event. So are we supposed to approve
Need a
something
second?
or? Make a motion to receive this memorandum.
Yep.
Yes, make a motion to receive.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Next, a memorandum from the city manager concerning Easton's Pond interim dam stabilization work, north and south Easton Pond CRMC assent and RIDEM approval documents. Motion to receive.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? Oh,
Well, these
sure,
are
let's-
approval documents. I'm sorry. Motion to approve. Could Mr. Schultz come up and just discuss this a little? We are approving. This is not just a memorandum. This is actually an approval of some.
Nope,
Oh.
it's just communication.
Okay,
um, With
okay. 'Cause
most of the stuff in the utilities world, there's several overlapping regulations.
Got
So
it.
this is just following up on the previous resolution from
Mhm.
council and cleaning up the record so everyone has it in many different formats.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions from the council?
Just want to say thank you,
Council.
Rob, for doing this.
All right, without any discussion, all those in favor?
Aye. A memorandum from the city manager, proposed plan and information regarding prohibition of new non-owner occupied short-term rentals. Do I have a second to
Second.
receive?
We have a motion and second to receive, any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Council Carlin.
Thank you. I know we're receiving this document alone, but I am looking forward to a prompt response by the city administration, by the
I'm
planning
sorry.
board and its members, and any other necessities that might be in front of us to ultimately adopt new ordinances. What I have proposed via my last resolution and what you see in front of us tonight via the council docket is a prohibition citywide on any future short-term rentals, if you will, transient guest facilities in any district that are not owner occupied. And the reason I put this forward is a reason similar to what my colleague, my former colleague, Councilor Marco Romley put forward last year. And that is to say that the General Assembly, much as it does on a frequent basis, forced upon us and all municipalities new state laws concerning zoning, concerning planning, concerning land use. The General Assembly, in their wisdom, thought that they knew better than our planning staff, our zoning, and other staff, as well as our elected officials, about what is right for the city of Newport. I disagreed with a lot of those changes in state law, but one of them in particular, which allows for the conversion of commercial industrial properties to residential properties in and of itself, by right, by state law, in and of itself is not a bad thing. But what the state of Rhode Island's General Assembly said when they adopted that zoning change is they said this will help to produce further housing in the state of Rhode Island, further rental and buying opportunities in the state of Rhode Island for buildings which have no longer a purpose for commercial or industrial use, buildings that will convert to residential use. Now, that may be fine in very urban communities like Providence, Central Falls, West Warwick, Pawtucket, Woonsocket. But we all know communities like Narragansett, South Kingston, and especially Newport, Rhode Island, Newport, that won't be the case. You won't see those properties converted to residential property use for renters and owners. You will see them converted for the purpose of investment, taking down the commercial industrial use, converting to residential, and almost immediately thereafter, putting it on the market as a short-term rental. What, I say to our friends at the General Assembly, does that do to produce further housing in Newport? Nothing. Mr. Chairman, I think it's been moved and seconded to accept, and I hope when the time comes that my colleagues will support these ordinance changes. Thank you.
Well, this is obviously a topic of discussion that I've received many calls and emails about. So I do want to take a moment and open up to any public discussion. If anyone is in the audience wants to come up or have any questions or comments. That's good. State your name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Tyler Bernadine. I live at 6 Curry Avenue in Newport, Rhode Island. Good evening, counselors. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. There are leaders in our community and across the state who have been working on short-term rental policy for well over a decade now. I invite you and I encourage you to look down the road of Barnstable County. Years ago, they were grappling with the same issues of noise, neighborhood integrity, affordability, out-of-towners, etc. Some wanted to ban short-term rentals entirely. Instead, their legislative delegation created a policy framework. They didn't overreact. Instead, they built a solution. They implemented a renter-paid tax. Today, 23.5% of every rental dollar goes back to that local town. The money now funds real-world solutions, a registration system, and with law enforcement capabilities for these short-term rentals, municipal bonds dedicated to workforce housing, and the modernization of wastewater infrastructure in their city. In short, they turned a challenge into a revenue stream and used it to address the exact problems their community was facing, that we are as well. Here we are in a city with failing infrastructure, underfunded schools, and a worsening housing crisis, talking about cutting off a similar opportunity before we've even really tried to dive in deeper on this. I want to be clear, banning short-term rentals will not create year-round housing. That's not how this works. Most properties currently operating as short-term rentals will not suddenly become affordable homes. The math just simply doesn't allow for it. What's more likely is that you'll see these homes purchased by wealthy buyers from out of state, people who won't rent them, who won't live in them, and certainly who won't contribute to the local economy during the off-season. No one's staying in the house means no one's spending money at restaurants, at shops, or with our local contractors, construction workers, and property managers. That's the real impact. No one is going to wave a magic wand and all of a sudden someone decides to rent on a yearly basis for what the city or the public deem as affordable housing. Right now, the average 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom rental in the downtown area, which I've marked as south of Marlboro, west of Spring Street, north of Morton, and east of the harbor, is $2,750 per month for a yearly space. The average sales price for a single-family home in that same area in the last 365 days was $1.296 million. The average multifamily home was $1.127 million. So even at 20% down, 25% down, or 30% down, if you're financing these homes, it's a negatively cash flowing asset. So ask yourself this, what's the highest and best use for these type of properties? Is it providing transient guest housing for those who spend money in the community and providing the city with another potential revenue streams to support their budget and initiatives? Or is it to have them sit empty and rent only for the overly inflated 9-month, 3-month seasonal cycle that we already see? My industry is housing. I see it every day. Affordable housing comes from building housing, not restricting the rights of tax-paying citizens who contribute to the community. Build up Broadway. All those single-row commercial buildings are a prime opportunity to create future workforce housing. If the concern is about enforcement, then enforce. If it's about registration, then require it. If it's about fairness and tax collection, then collect. And I encourage you to consider Representative Carson's thoughtful op-ed this week. She's been working on this issue at the state level for 10 plus years. And as she said, she's eager to address this legislatively and ensure robust protections for neighborhoods, public safety, and the housing supply. But she also emphasized something very critical, the need to wait for ongoing court cases to play out before enacting new local legislation that could face its own legal challenges. That's the prudent path. It's a frustrating one, sure, but it's how lasting, well-crafted policy is made. Let's not rush into a decision now or one that we'll regret in 6 months or 6 years down the road. I think we need to stop using short-term rental as a trigger and start using it for what it really could be, a tool in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on the panel?
One more,
Yep,
Mr.
Councilor
Chairman, I
Allen.
see my colleague, Council Napolitano.
Yeah, I just want to point out something that I point out almost every meeting. We are 10 square miles. We have 7 landmass and 3 underwater. Short-term rentals have come in. We're losing families. Our schools are losing student population. I personally think a short-term rental ought to be charged as a commercial piece of property. I think that would be the fairest thing. And right now, that's not the case. We're kind of being controlled by upstate politicians that did legislation that they thought one size fits all for every community. Well, it doesn't. It doesn't. We have the highest population of subsidized housing in the state. And we need it. We need it. We have families there. But there also needs to be work in other communities to provide for these people and these families that want to live in Rhode Island, that want to work in Rhode Island. So, I appreciate you bringing it up. And certainly Lauren is a workhorse upstate. But I really, for me, I think the answer is to turn anybody who owns a short-term rental, it's a business. Let's get real about it. It's a business. So you charge them a commercial rate. Well, that's my piece.
Mr. Chair,
Hold on, Council Carlin, did you want to?
I yield to the Vice Chair.
Thank you.
thank you. We've been through this conversation before, and I can't, I mean, we have a memorandum here. We're not really voting on anything, but I pause when we take some sort of global view, global action on something without really knowing the ramifications.
Mhm.
And I believe that business should take place in business districts. And we have already banned non-owner short-term rentals in residential neighborhoods. Again, I will say it again, we're going to create a new market for grandfathered properties, which the cost of those will explode. There's also a lot of really, very good questions in a sense on this memorandum that says that the term short-term rental is not directly defined in the Newport Municipal Code. I mean, this idea, even if I thought it was the right way to go, needs a lot more work than and the staff needs a lot more information from the council and from the public as to how they feel about this. There's also, there's never been an official process for verification of owner occupancy either. It says here the comprehensive plan housing chapter says cap the number of non-owner occupied short-term rentals allowed in the city. It's so vague. I mean, and we're going through our comprehensive plan now. I think that we need to certainly look at that. So I think this sort of global attack on an industry is not the way to go. And I agree with Councilor Napolitano that if you're a business, you should be taxed as a business, and then the city should reap the benefits of that. And also, what you said about an impact fee, I think is a perfect solution.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Counselor Sai?
It's challenging to sit up here on the council and to hear everybody espouse caring about housing and to say that they acknowledge that we need more housing. But anytime we put something forward to actually create new housing or prevent the erosion of housing, when it's supported by data, when it's supported by sound legal analysis, as this restriction was in the last term, all of a sudden everybody has plenty of excuses as to why we can't move on things that actually improve housing. The reality that we know through state-funded studies that this council has both agreed to, participated in, and accepted is that we need to add somewhere between 25 and 40 units of housing per year. What we know by that same study is that between 20 and 30 units of housing per year are lost to the conversion into short-term rentals, and that these are middle-class homes. And it's very easy for us to agree that, okay, well, something needs to be done, but not these specific things. But at some point, we need to start doing things. Second, on the short-term rental issue, this is not an issue where all of a sudden short-term rentals were created last year and we're waking up and having to scramble for it. This council, and I give it a lot of credit, has taken very good action over the years, progressively clamping down on short-term rentals in this community because of the community level impacts that it's having. And this is an additional step towards that progression, but this wasn't created yesterday or the day before or a number of years back. Similarly, the ability to tax, while I absolutely agree with you 100%, and I agree with Mr. Bernardin, would be an ideal solution, is not one that any single member here or the member of our realtor community has stepped up and said, you know what, we're going to up to the General Assembly and support a bill to make short-term rentals taxed as commercial properties. We're going to go up, we're going to support a 25% tax on all short-term rental revenues. That hasn't been done. And so to throw that out now at the 11th hour when we are kind of at the boiling point on this crisis isn't something that I have confidence and faith is going to get done. But also to Councilor Napolitano's point, every municipality in Rhode Island is substantially different. And so a one-size-fits-all regulation is not something that is likely to come from the General Assembly. And I know that because I've sat on that short-term rental commission as the local representative for the past 2 years. So we will continue to wait for state action and wait for state action. At best, we might get a registration system. At best, we might get a tax loophole closed. But the grand solution is going to have to start here at the local level because this is a unique problem and challenge that we have. I will say, Mr. Bernardin, you made some excellent points. It is unfair to pin the housing crisis on any one individual aspect of that. And you are 100% right that the vilification of what is otherwise a very fairly and well-run industry is not fair. And I don't think that that should be the perspective of this council, but we need to take action in those places where the data supports it, where policy research supports it, and where prior legal analysis guided us that we have a viable pathway to take action. Thank you for your time.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Hold on one second. I mean, you want to come up? She had her hand up.
Thank you. Emily Conklin, 7 Gwynn Court. I didn't plan to speak tonight because it's just a memo and I appreciate all the discussion that's ongoing. And I really appreciate Councilor Carlin putting this in last meeting. I think this is something, as Councilor Zai just spoke to, that we need to be thinking about and working on, and that there isn't one panacea for. But some of you might notice that my address is different now from the last time I testified because I used to live at 3 Bull Street, which is the last commercially zoned property on this street right out here. And recently, this past February, I was told that my lease would not be renewed, and now that property is being used as a short-term rental. And the other 3 units in that building are used as short-term rentals. And I know that over the school year, they are rented, like was mentioned, the 9 months, but not all of them. And over the summer, those who are able to live there over the school year have to leave and find somewhere else to live, even though they are residents here. And so this is a thing that happens. I don't like anecdotal data extrapolated to situations, but I know because it happened to me, it happened to others. And so we can't think about this in a way that, oh, if we ban short-term rentals in commercial, it's not going to be creating housing, because I lived in a commercial area that was my full-time housing for 5 years and it was taken away. So thank you.
Thank you. Council Stiegley?
Yes, and thank you for that story, that your story on that. But I would need to see actual studies that show that short-term rentals that banning short-term rentals would increase housing for workforce. I just would like to see that, because the housing handbook that was for Rhode Island does not specify that. So there is a lot of attrition when it comes to people converting converting 2 and 3 family homes to 1 family. And I think we've lost a lot of units because of that primarily, but I would need to see studies.
Thank you. Council Sai?
Councillor Seckley, I think that's a valid question, and I would encourage you to read the studies that the city has paid for, that we have approved as a council and that we have accepted, because it's contained in those studies.
Mr. Chair.
Council Pinnock?
Thank you, Emily, for sharing your experience with us. I know it was really difficult. We're also losing an employee and a school teacher from my organization whose home, where she lived for 13 years, was turned into a short-term rental quite recently, and it does happen. And while I do agree that short-term rentals aren't the only issue when it comes to housing, it's like the housing crisis is like death by 1,000 cuts in Newport. And if we don't start somewhere, we're going to continuously bleed out. So while I appreciate the gentleman coming up and speaking to things that could potentially help when it comes to short-term rentals, I do think that we do need some stronger parameters around it so we can maintain the families that we do have. Our school population is rapidly declining. When I first started working in schools, we had about 1,100 kids in the high school, and now we have 600 kids. And the enrollment is down in all of the schools. We are losing families, and this is a community for everyone, and that includes families. So thank you for your presentation, and thank you, Emily, for sharing again.
Thank you. Council Carlin?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Councilor Kamzavaravine, Councilor Pinnock, and thank you, Councilor Napolitano, who spoke the words that I would speak regarding, as I mentioned earlier, the General Assembly and what it does to the city of Newport and other cities, whereby they think they know better than we do. And the General Assembly has to date prohibited us from taxing, property tax wise, a short-term rental, a business, a commercial industrial operation, which is located in a mixed zone as a commercial industrial business, as a business, paying 50% more than the residential property tax that anyone who owns a property in Newport pays. Notwithstanding what I said about the short-term rental. If you own a residential property in Newport, you don't use it for a short-term rental, or you do use it for a short-term rental, but you live there. You own or occupy it. You pay a certain tax rate. Commercial buildings, industrial buildings in the city pay a 50% higher tax rate. That's true for almost every community in the state of Rhode Island. However, if you are the owner of a short-term rental and you're operating it as a business, and you are located in a mixed zone, which includes residential, you are taxed at the residential rate, not at the so-called business rate. You're not stealing from the residents who pay residential property tax rates in Newport, but the General Assembly is allowing you to steal from the residents of the city, because the General Assembly says we will equate you as a resident and not a business. Totally unfair. Councilor Napolitano is correct. I also want to thank both my friends Emily and Tyler for coming before the council and sharing two sides of the same story. This is how democracy works, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And the last thing I'll say is that this is only, I know it's had a robust discussion this evening, but before us is simply a blueprint from the city administration to take the resolution which was passed at the last council meeting and to bring it to the ultimate goal, which is an ordinance change or changes from from my perspective. So this is not a debate, though it has certainly turned into, as I said, a robust and healthy debate, democracy. We are simply accepting the roadmap that the city administration is bringing to us to take the next step on my resolution, which was passed at the last meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Counselor. The only thing, the input I'll say is, Councilor Carlin, this is a roadmap, but this roadmap is not leading us to a certain destination. This roadmap is basically just running us around in circles because there's not enough teeth, there's not enough research done to see what exactly this effect will have. Will this create workforce housing? I haven't seen any studies that prove it. Will it create affordable housing? Absolutely. If you can afford to live there, you can afford to buy a $1.2 million house or pay $3,000 a month. Sure, you can afford to live there. The housing that we need is not this type of housing. This is going to be more high-end housing. And it's not that I'm opposed to what the long-term outcome is. Yes, trust me, no one on this council deals with housing issues from a workforce standpoint than I do. I deal with it every single day. I've been dealing with it for 25 years. I know how important housing is for workers. Why do we had this conversation at our a meeting a couple weeks ago. One reason why traffic is so bad in Newport is because so many people that live in Newport have to drive into the city because they can't afford to live here. But no one thinks about that. They only think, oh, it's tourists. No, there's thousands of workers who live outside of Newport have to drive in. I want to see something that is going to be not, I hope this is going to happen. I want to see something that's going to be like, no, this is the plan. This is what we're going to do. And I still haven't seen that yet. And until I see that, I can't vote for something that is going to be, a pie in the sky dream. I deal with the reality. Even if this does pass, even if we change the ordinances, we have 370 registered short-term rental units in Newport. You go on Airbnb, there's close to 900 available. So there's a big discrepancy.
Yep.
So this is not going to change the reality of what's going on because people are still going to do it until we can get more enforcement and more money behind it. This is not going to change anything. But I do appreciate the goal of this, and hopefully at some point we can come to a point. And I do appreciate the discussion, which is why I wanted to open this up, even though this is just a memorandum and a communication. I think it's important that we do take these time to discuss it and see where we can get to. So I appreciate that from the council and from the public. All right. So all those in favor on this memorandum, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Nay. 5-2.
Action item 6436, the Department of Planning and Economic Development recommends the council adopt the 2025 Safety Action Plan prepared to provide data and actionable implementation strategies to ensure the success of the previously adopted Vision Zero Safe Streets for All goal. I move approval.
Second.
I believe we have a,
Yep. Hold on. We have a motion and a second discussion. So we have yeah, who's doing the presentation, Mr. Manager? How you doing?
Hello, thank you for having us back. I'm Shauna Kitzman, and I'm here on behalf of Tool Design. Am I advancing this slide? It's been a busy few months. We were here in February, as you might recall, at which point you adopted the resolution to establish the Vision Zero goal in which the city of Newport would stand for zero traffic deaths or serious injuries by the year 2034. This safety action plan was funded by USDOT, and RIPTA was the holder of that funding. They secured about $5 million in federal funding for 31 municipalities in Rhode Island and the statewide safety action plan. And we are nearing the end of that process. So we have about a month left. The Safety Action Plan is a technical and strategic document that outlines specific and data-driven actions to improve roadway safety following Newport's Vision Zero pledge. So we are here tonight to ask for the city's resolution to adopt the action plan itself. As mentioned, this plan includes specific strategies to address the safety challenges on your roadways and goals. It also outlines responsible parties and benchmarks to maintain progress towards your Vision Zero goal. You might recall that we developed this plan closely with Trish Reynolds and Becky Trefethen in planning. Becky was instrumental in making sure that key municipal leadership had an opportunity to review and comment on the draft plan. And we also work closely with local advocates for roadway safety, including Bike Newport. I wanted to just show you a couple different animations that we're developing in addition to the plan itself. So our data science team conducted crash statistics, and we created these animations for easier kind of bite-sized information for you and your public to digest. These are intended to be shared with your school district, social media from the city, and other streams of communication to make sure your community knows that you're a Vision Zero community. The crash data was originally collected by the Newport Police Department, and it's maintained by the Rhode Island Department of Transportation in a statewide database, which we obtained for this safety action plan. And the plan itself includes 5 years of data, which strikes a nice balance between being practical in terms of data reliability and and relevance. So in addition to these shareable animations that you're seeing here, we're also creating tip sheets and safety briefs. These are really intended for folks such as elected officials and other citywide leadership so that they can have a few kind of quick information bites to share with your constituents out in the world. So these visual documents are really intended to convey the link between roadway safety, and our tip sheets also dive into how children are affected by roadway safety, how older adults are impacted, and how improvements to roadway safety positively impact economic development. So what does this plan include? The priority corridors were developed by substantial data analysis. Your priority corridors based on where those crashes that result in serious injury or death are really focused on Broadway, Memorial Boulevard, America's Cup Avenue, Bellevue Avenue, Thames Street, and Toro Street. And the work that we did to engage with the community throughout Newport, as well as Quinnipiac Island more broadly, really supported that data. When we talk to people, we hear about their lived experiences. They'll tell about, a near miss that they might have had, a street that they won't let their kids walk down by themselves, and other information that is very personal and true and is not necessarily reflected in a statewide crash database. So the plan itself has 4 strategies supported by 43 actions. The actions relate to policy, process, roadway design, enforcement, and community education. And action items begin as soon as 2 months after the plan adoption, so no rest for the weary. Our partners listed include municipal staff, school stakeholders, and organizations such as AARP, RIPTA, and Bike Newport. I do also want to make sure it's clear that we developed this as an independent plan for Newport with a regional lens. So some of our planning activities were done with leadership in planning and engineering public works from Middletown and Middletown and Portsmouth as well, because you have a cohesive transportation network, and oftentimes people will traverse your city line or town line, and not know or necessarily care which town they're in. It's really about how they're experiencing the roadways. So where are we now? So we are targeting being done with the action plan in the next couple weeks here. It's pretty much final. There's a couple of finishing touches that we're putting on it. You might have heard about the SS4A, or Safe Streets and Roads for All US DOT grant. There is one window for applications this year versus 3 windows in previous years. The due date is actually 1 month for today, and we are currently working with Becky, Trish, and other leaders from Quinnipiac municipalities, as well as Barry at Bike Newport and Paige at Quinnipiac Island Land Trust, to develop a regional grant application for implementation, supplemental planning, and demonstration. And that would touch upon both local and state-owned roadways. And just today, I sent a letter, a template letter of support from partners at RIDOT to help bolster our application. The work is aligned with Rhode Island Highway Safety Plan, and really is designed to benefit pedestrians throughout the island. This is just a quick snapshot of a table from our action plan. It's very time-based. We identify who's responsible, who's supporting, and is intended to be relatively easy to use and track metrics of success. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from the
Yes,
council?
Mr.
Council
Chairman.
Fontana?
Yeah, what do you mean by regional? Are you talking Newport only?
Newport, Middletown, and Portsmouth.
Okay.
As a regional application, we think it bodes well.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah. So that is why we developed the plans from the beginning with a regional lens and
Okay.
considering priorities for each of the communities while also recognizing nuances.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Council Sai?
Just want to thank you for coming forth to present, and also the manner in which this particular policy initiative has been taken has been very helpful. Where sometimes we'll get a policy report and we'll forget about it, right, as we've seen a little bit tonight. On this issue, repeatedly coming back and progressively updating the council, ensuring that you have buy-in from this body, I think is very important to the successful policy implementation. It's going to help us save lives and reduce injuries. And I want to thank you and the team at O'Toole, but also our planning department, our community partners like Bike Newport for your support of this process all the way through. And we're also very focused on this in the budget. I know city administration has been super focused on ensuring that we are funding the initial phase of the transportation master plan, which of course includes Safe Street for All initiatives like this. I want to thank you for all that advocacy and work that's gone into that.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. I know as a council at the beginning of our term, public safety is one of the biggest issues that we've had. And obviously this is something that is going to feed directly to those outcomes. So appreciate that. And we'll accept the communication. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's have it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Appreciate
night.
it.
Thank you.
Action item 6437, the Department of Public Services recommends approval of a subrecipient agreement by and between the Rhode Island Department of Transportation and the City of Newport for the Cliff Walk Restoration Project. This is currently budgeted. I move approval.
Second?
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Action item 6438, the Department of Public Services recommends approval of a contract in accordance with the Rhode Island Department of Administration Master Price Agreement number 584, engineering services with Beta Group, Inc. of Lincoln, Rhode Island, to provide professional services for the development of a pavement management system for the city's roadway system network to not exceed $25,000. This is currently budgeted. I move approval.
Second?
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. The Department of Public Services recommends approval of a supplemental agreement to the pavement marking program contract in accordance with Section 11 of the subject contract in order to continue striping the roads in Newport at the approved contract bid prices to total $100,000. This amount includes $75,000 in construction contract work and $25,000 in project contingencies for a not to exceed total of $194,893. This is currently budgeted. I move approval.
Second.
A motion and second, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The Department of Public Services recommends approval of a one-year agreement with Rhodey Surf, Inc. of Newport, Rhode Island for umbrella and chair concessions at Easton's Beach. I move approval.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The Department of Utilities Water Division recommends as follows the award of the annual bid for chemicals used at the 2 water treatment plants and for treatment of the raw water reserves. This is currently budgeted. I move approval.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
The city received 6 bids from 6 vendors for assorted products for use by the Water and Water Pollution Control Divisions of the Department of Utilities for fiscal year 2026. Bids were received on May 6, 2025. The products include meters, piping, fittings, valves, etc. These products will serve the department's need to maintain the water, sanitary sewer, and the storm drain systems. The bids have been evaluated based on cost proposal, compatibility of proposed products, and our existing systems and service reputation of vendors. This is currently budgeted. The recommended vendors are E.J. Prescott of Lincoln, Rhode Island, Corin, Maine, Norwood, Mass, Stiles Company, Norwood, Mass, Ferguson Waterworks, Canton, Mass, John Hoadley and Sons of Rockland, Mass, Warwick Windwater of Warwick, Rhode Island, and Tri-Sales LLC of Sudbury, Mass. I move approval.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, on to ordinances. Motion to amend section 5.64.080 of the codified ordinances entitled Smoking on Buses Prohibited. This is a second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to amend section 5.97.120 of the codified ordinances entitled Regulations for Pedicab Operations. This is a second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to amend section 8.28.010 entitled Smoking Prohibited in and Around Municipal and School Buildings. This is a second reading. Do I have a
Second.
You have motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to amend section 12.32.060 of the codified ordinances entitled Easton's Beach Regulations. This is a second reading. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to amend section 12.32.090 entitled Athletic and Recreational Facilities Prohibition of Smoking. This is a second reading. Do I have a
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to amend section 12.32.125 entitled Prohibition of Smoking on Public Beaches, in Public Parks, and Cliff Walk, finding an intent. This is a second reading.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to amend section 12.32.130 entitled Smoking Prohibited on Public Beaches, in Public Parks, and Cliff Walk. This is a second reading.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, resolutions, motion to continue, requesting the council resume consideration of the fiscal year 2026, fiscal year 2027 biennial budget. Do I have a second?
All right, we have motion and second to continue the request. We have any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Next is a resolution requesting resident parking stickers qualify only for resident properties. Mr. Carlin, would you like to read your resolve and then make a motion?
I would not, and I'll tell you why. Because I have at the appropriate time, an amendment which will disqualify the resolved as written. In other words, I'm orally amending the resolution and the resolve is no longer appropriate.
But does he have to read what's been publicized and then amend?
But you're gonna need to get read some way, seconded, and
In order to have a conversation.
it's gotta be.
Right. So
Mr. Chairman, and I
Go ahead,
appreciate
Councilor.
the solicitor. His advice is I always yield to the solicitor. But I don't need to read the resolve. We simply need to move and second, correct?
Mhm.
Yes, well, yeah,
All right.
just get it before the body.
Yeah, I'll second it.
we don't know what we're seconding. I mean, if
course you
we
do.
were
It's
if we
before
were to-
you.
But the public does not. So I think it would behoove us to,
It's foolish, Vice Chair Segley, it's foolish to read a resolve which in 2 minutes will be completely moot.
I vote for to table this resolution. Do I have a second?
second,
Motion and a second. All those in favor? Raise your hand if you're in favor. Aye. All those opposed?
Aye.
All right.
We have
So-
a count on that vote, please, Madam Clerk. Thank you.
Well, the reason, all right, I'll read the resolve. The city administration shall take the necessary steps, including if necessary, the drafting of proposed ordinances for the consideration of the city council to prohibit the distribution of said parking stickers to any properties or property owners tied to any property but residential property. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we
I
have
did
motion and
second.
second. Is there discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Council Carlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to offer an oral amendment in the second whereas. I would like to strike from the fourth line, properties and property owners tied to residential properties. And I would like to add right after be made available to the following language. Those who, comma, in any manner, comma, reside in residential dwelling units as defined by the city of Newport. I would further like in the third resolved to strike on the second to last line and the last line, the following language. Properties or property owners tied to any property but residential property. And I would like to add, Mr. Chairman, but the above mentioned. What I am doing here is clarifying the resolution so that my colleagues and the public will understand that I am not trying to prohibit those who live in the city of Newport but do not own a property in the city of Newport from receiving a parking pass. That is absolutely not my desire, and nor would it be the desire of any of my colleagues, I believe. My desire is to make sure that what has happened in the past does not happen again. Namely, we've seen, and I'll use this as an example, may not be to the letter of the law, but I think you know what I mean. We've seen commercial properties in Newport, pizza places, gas stations, et cetera, as I've mentioned in the past, somehow be issued residential parking stickers for vehicles tied to their business. Dozens in some instances. That's not appropriate. What's appropriate is residential stickers for residents, whether you own or whether you rent. And that's what my resolution does. And I ask for, my resolution actually takes the first step. It asks the administration to come back to us with the proper ordinance changes to see to it that that is done. The city of Newport has been taken advantage of and our residents have been taken advantage of far too often with respect to parking, housing, and a lot more. And I want to start the process of ending that here. And I'd ask for my colleagues' support. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I have a second, please, on my
Second.
oral amendment?
Second.
Second.
So we have multiple amendments going on, correct?
We have an amendment to the resolution. It's one amendment. You don't,
There were-
you
there was-
don't
there
make
was some-
multiple, you make multiple
Hey, Councilor
changes
Carlin,
in the
Councilor
form of
Carlin.
one. Yes, Mr. Chairman. You said an
I have a
incorrect
question for you.
statement, so I'm trying to correct you.
Are you including commercial residential properties?
Where do you see that language?
I don't see it. That's why I'm asking.
I'd be
For
happy
instance-
to
for
read
instance,
my
a
oral
four-
amendment to
four-
you again.
For
but I
instance,
think I
a
spoke pretty
four-family
clearly.
house is a commercial property, but it's rural residential. So would that be included for parking stickers?
The language that I have added whereby it says those who in any manner reside in residential dwelling units as defined by the city of Newport covers that. If you live in a property which is classified by the tax office as a commercial property, but is used for residential dwelling purposes, you would be entitled to a guest parking pass, and that's covered by my oral amendment.
Now, would that be covered in an ordinance? Because that, to me, that doesn't seem like it would be.
We're not addressing
I'm
an
not-
ordinance here.
I'm-
What we're addressing is a
I'm asking
resolution
I'm
suggesting
asking
ordinances.
administration, Mr. Carlin, thank you.
We looked at it earlier today. We would have to create an ordinance. It's in 12.32.070, which is the residential parking program. The qualifications for a resident sticker are in subsection A of that ordinance. And we believe it would be a simple addition to one of the sublines of that ordinance. We haven't fully vetted that out yet, but upon initial look today, if that is the intent of Councilor Carlin, I think it could easily be met.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Councilor Napolitano?
Yeah, I think according to the city charter, when we make amendments or change a resolution, it's required that the council be given the language, the new language that's being proposed. We haven't been doing that. I think that would clear up a lot of the questions that people have because it's on the basis of the resolution that appeared in our docket without the new, or I don't know if Counselor Carlin, and I agree with him. If you're, if we could continue this till the next meeting and get a clarification on the language to allow it, it would be helpful for everybody.
Mr. Chairman,
Councilor Carlin?
I would normally yield to a request from a colleague to do such. But first I have to know from the city solicitor if in fact the charter does require that.
The council.
I think it may be the rules of the council, but I
Is it the
could,
rules?
I think Councilor Napolitano also suggested correctly that there's been a long-standing practice of this council, previous councils to do oral amendments to resolutions, even to ordinances, and not wait for a printed version of it. Of course, the ordinance, you might catch it on the second reading where there would be a printed version, but I think we've had a long history of doing oral amendments like this to resolutions. So that would be my answer. I think it's in the rules of the council, not the charter.
With that said,
So
Mr.
I'm-
Chairman,
I'm-
we are essentially, by accepting this then as an oral amendment, we are giving our permission to override what is in the ordinance. I don't believe we have the right to override the charter, but we do have the right to override council rules since we made those rules. And I would respectfully, I will not continue this, Councilor Napolitano, with great respect. It's too important an issue.
If that's the case, if the issue is so important, then this resolution should be much clearer and distinct into what we want, as opposed to putting in, oral amendments to it. It could be, it's the idea of the resolution is fantastic. The body of it needs to be really more well-defined, just so we cover, there are no questions and we can cover everything. So we do have an amendment. So we should take a vote on that amendment unless there's any other discussion on it.
Would you mind repeating the
Yeah,
amendment, please?
restate it.
Certainly. In the second whereas, on the fourth line, the line begins with the city, comma, be made available only to, My oral amendment will strike the wording properties and property owners tied to residential properties. That is to say, get rid of that language and replace it by the following: those who, comma, in any manner, comma, reside in residential dwelling units as defined by the city of Newport. Further, the third resolved,
Sir,
second to last sentence. I propose to strike where it says properties or property owners tied to any property but residential property. Strike that completely by way of this oral amendment. And I propose to replace, or I should say, to add but the above mentioned. And I will once again define what that does. It makes certain that we are not taking away the right of those who rent in the city or those who live in properties which are classified as commercial but are used for residential purposes from being able to get a parking sticker. My resolution will do nothing but take away the right, or take away, it's not a right, take away the issuance of parking stickers to commercial properties and industrial properties. I wrote the language the wrong way. That's it.
All right, any other questions on the amendment? All right, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Now, any other discussion on the resolution? All right, all those in favor of the resolutions, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, ayes have it.
all right.
That's it.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and second, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.